Just like Bruce Banner, Hyundai has exposed its Ioniq 5 to dangerous levels of gamma radiation and created something of a beast. The Ioniq 5N is the Hulk to the Ioniq 5's Bruce Banner, complete with an Adonis-like physique, bulging bodywork, and the strength to bully even an M3 around a racetrack. We know it's good, we know it's expensive, but I'm going to tell you about the one thing that might make this not only the ultimate Hyundai, but one of the best cars you can buy today. You've probably already heard, this is the most expensive Hyundai model to date. It's priced at $111,000 before on-road costs, and that's certainly going to put a dent in your savings. But then again, there's nothing at this price point that offers the same level of performance, practicality, and poise, is there?
Yes, this thing is more than $10,000 pricier than a Kia EV6 GT and about $20,000 upstream of a Tesla Model Y Performance. But neither of those cars offers the same degree of hardcore performance as this Hyundai. Even the flagship Ford Mustang Mach-E GT doesn't come close, and that's only about $6,000 cheaper. For this price though, you'll be expecting a long list of equipment, and at least Hyundai has come to the table in this regard. Standard equipment includes LED exterior lights, a power tailgate, and rear privacy glass, but N-specific upgrades such as 21-inch wheels, gloss black exterior accents, and an eye-catching body kit also feature. In terms of options, there's matte paint for $1,000 and a glass roof for $2,000.
It's $27,000 or a whole Hyundai i30's worth more expensive than an Ioniq 5 Epic. But it's more than just dialing up the electric motors and slapping on a body kit. Speaking of the body kit, yeah, I'm a fan. Maybe it was all those hours I spent in my teenage years on Need for Speed and Gran Turismo trying to match wheels to whatever gaudy color of car I had at the time, but the Ioniq 5N's design really does spark joy in me. Look, I get it might not be everyone's cup of tea, especially given the polarizing design of the Ioniq 5, but you gotta give Hyundai credit for sticking to the boy racer look on all its N models. Naturally, there's a more aggressively styled front bumper that has extra air intakes to help cool those batteries. And there's even red accenting, so you know this car is going to be sporty. In profile, you've got 21-inch wheels to help fill those arches, as well as road-hugging side skirts. But my favorite design feature are the flush-fitting door handles. How sci-fi. At the rear, you'll notice an aggressive diffuser, as well as this prominent rear spoiler with an integrated race-inspired brake light. And this LED light bar that houses the taillights, yeah, I'm still a huge fan. The cabin has also received a sprinkling of sporty bits, highlighted by a new steering wheel and extra functionality in the infotainment system. The steering wheel is now clad in semi-perforated leather, so your hands won't slip off mid-corner. There are also N buttons for sportier driving modes, but the biggest button you should take note of is this NGB one, which stands for N-Grin Boost, that boosts the Ioniq 5N's performance for 10 seconds. It essentially overclocks the car and you can launch it even harder. The 12.3-inch infotainment system has also been tweaked with specific N functionality, including a lap timer, torque distribution, and a G-force meter. But it still retains a lot of the day-to-day functionality like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. A 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster sits behind the steering wheel with a clear display that changes around when you flick it into different driving modes. This N also scores sporty bucket seats, Alcantara bits, and metal pedals, and other highlights include dual-zone climate control, heated and cooled front seats, a wireless smartphone charger, USB-C charging outlets, and a head-up display. Of note, the front seats in the N are adjusted manually, whereas the rest of the Ioniq 5 family have electronic adjustment. This lets Hyundai mount the seats lower for a better driving position. Space is also excellent in here, but I do miss the adjustable center console that you find on a standard Ioniq 5 that really opens up the cabin and makes it feel a little bit more spacious. Still, the front and rear seats are plenty spacious, even for families, and with fully functioning rear doors, you could conceivably drop the kids off to school in the morning and then head straight to the racetrack in the Arvo. Performance usually comes at the cost of practicality, but not here. Because the Ioniq 5N has a fairly big boot and it'll fit prams, groceries, golf clubs, and whatever else your daily life can throw at it.
You do lose the 57-litre front boot in the Ioniq 5N though, with a compartment now filled with speakers for the N Active sound system.
To be fair, it's a 480-litre boot, which is 80 litres less than what you usually get in a standard Ioniq 5. Mounted on the floor of this car is a new generation 84 kilowatt-hour battery, which means this Ioniq 5N is rated for a driving range of 448 kilometres. Look, you won't get anywhere near that figure if you're using the N-Grin boost feature a little bit too much, but at the end of the day, it is a respectable driving range, and it won't leave you feeling like you need to stay attached to the charger.
Speaking of, with 800-volt architecture, the Ioniq 5N can charge from 10 to 80% in less than 20 minutes when using a 350 kilowatt DC fast charger. A charger with this throughput is hard to find though, but when using a domestic AC 7 kilowatt charger, the Ioniq 5N can go from 10% battery to full in around 11 hours.
And with those big batteries feeding the electric motors, this Ioniq 5N has a truly special powertrain. It's got two electric motors, one feeding each axle, and has a combined system output of 448 kilowatts and 740 newton meters, making it one of the most potent EVs on sale in Australia today. Sure, those figures don't match a Porsche Taycan Turbo, but the Ioniq 5N has more power and torque than a Nissan GT-R. With drive sent to all four wheels, the Ioniq 5N can accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in just 3.5 seconds. But if you use that N-Grin boost function, outputs increase to 478 kilowatts and 770 newton meters, and it shaves 0.1 seconds off that time. In layman's terms, it's proper quick, and you can't buy anything that'll accelerate as fast for less money. In fact, it's so capable that you can't even explore the upper limits of this car without a racetrack. But luckily, oh my gosh, this is fun! Look, the whole mantra of Hyundai N cars is to be fun and accessible for a lot of people. And oh boy, the Ioniq 5N absolutely delivers. These electric motors are pushing out a lot of power and torque, more than enough to move this 2.2 ton SUV around this racetrack. But the Ioniq 5N is about more than just being fast in a straight line.
The magic is in the way it can corner.
With a tricked out limited slip differential, lowered suspension, a wider track, and extra bracing, this car can just lock in and attack an apex like a dog off a leash. This is a genuinely fun and engaging car to drive around a circuit, make no mistake. And like N cars of the past, you can dive into the special N menu and tweak settings like steering weight or ESC settings or throttle response. And you can really dial this car in to your comfort level, which is one of the best things about it. This makes driving the Ioniq 5N fast much more accessible to a lot more people, which is nothing but a good thing. However, as Hyundai's first all-electric N car, there are a few tricks up its sleeve to help stand it out from the pack. The standout feature is undoubtedly the NE shift function, which allows the Ioniq 5N to simulate having a dual clutch automatic transmission. You even get that jerkiness and lurch when you're swapping gears. And this pairs so nicely with the N Active sound system. And yes, I get it, it pipes in fake engine and exhaust noise, but when these two systems combine, it's just mwah, bueno. I know, those things all sound very gimmicky on paper if you haven't driven this car before, but in the real world, all that muscle memory you have of slowing down into a corner, downshifting, clipping an apex, straightening the wheel, accelerating, and then upshifting. It feels so natural in the Ioniq 5N, and I love it. And for all the hoons out there, it's even got a drift optimizer mode. And it gets more tail happy than a Labrador when you come home from work. But after you've had all that fun and it's time to switch the racetrack for the tarmac, well, the Ioniq 5N can do that pretty well too. You turn off all those go fast features and the car basically transforms back into an Ioniq 5. You've got the option for one pedal driving to maximize efficiency when on the road. There are mod cons like a heated steering wheel, and there's even adaptive cruise control with lane centering to make freeway driving a little bit easier. And because it's an EV, everything in here is so quiet and serene. In fact, I'd even go so far as to say, it's comfortable. The 21-inch wheels and sportier suspension do nothing to detract from how livable this car is day to day. I would happily daily the Ioniq 5N. Commuting to work, picking up the kids from school, going to get groceries, this car can do it all. Just like the Nintendo Game Boy, the Beatles, and the first iPhone, the Ioniq 5N marks a turning point in history where things can never go back to the way they were. It's not only a sporty EV, it transcends its powertrain restraints and is a truly wonderful driver's car that is engaging and dynamic in all the right ways. It's also a confident, comfortable, and capable commuter car, able to slink through gridlock traffic without much fuss, and on top of all that, there's enough space for a family of 4. Forget about the Ford Ranger Raptor or Audi RS6, because the Ioniq 5N might be all the car that you ever need. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button, and if you want to see more videos, subscribe to the Drive YouTube channel. For the full written review though, head to Drive.com.au.